I never thought helping a patient would change my life. It started like any other day, routine checkups, back-to-back appointments. Then she walked in. Her name was Anna. Mid-30s, confident but tired eyes, the kind that hinted at a story she hadn't told yet. She was there for recurring migraines, but something told me it was more than just that. I could see it in the way she hesitated before answering questions, or how she lingered just a second longer after each sentence. She was polite, even funny when she tried. But there was a sadness tucked beneath her words, like she was carrying weight she didn't know how to let go of. On her second visit, I asked a bit more gently. She said she'd been under stress. I nodded, professional but curious. Marriage stuff, she eventually admitted. Not abusive. Just hollow. I didn't pry. I just listened. And something about the way she looked at me then, it wasn't romantic, not yet, but it was something. Recognition, maybe. Relief. Over the next few weeks, she kept coming. At first, bi-weekly, then weekly. She always found a reason, new symptoms, a need for a different prescription. I knew she didn't need that many appointments, but I didn't question it. I told myself I was doing my job, helping someone in pain, being available. But deep down, I looked forward to seeing her. I noticed when she wore her hair differently. I noticed when she smiled more. I noticed too much. I kept things professional. My words were careful, my tone neutral. But there was always a silence between us that felt thick. Heavy. I'd catch her watching me, and she'd quickly look away. One time, she touched my hand while taking a prescription paper from me. A second too long. Nothing major, but it stayed with me all night. Why did that feel like something? I started comparing her to the people in my life. How she paid attention, how she spoke softly but with depth. My usual boundaries started blurring in my mind. I'd replay conversations with her, wondering what she meant. Was I reading too much into it? Or was there really something there? Then came the message. Thanks for today. You're easy to talk to. I haven't felt that in a long time. I stared at it longer than I should have. Typed a response, erased it. Eventually, I replied with something safe. Glad I could help. But I wasn't glad. I was unsettled. The kind of unsettled that makes you question your own intentions. I told myself I was being kind, being supportive. But there was a part of me that wasn't just doing this out of care. Something deeper had already begun. And I didn't know how to stop it. Anna started messaging more often. At first, it was just about her symptoms. Then it turned into questions about my day, or random thoughts she wanted to share. I responded cautiously, keeping the tone neutral, but I didn't ignore her. I told myself it was part of the care process. She needed someone to talk to. But I knew I was lying to myself. I looked forward to her messages. I waited for them. She told me about her husband, how they barely spoke anymore. How he was always busy, distracted, emotionally absent. She said she felt invisible in her own home. I listened. I offered polite reassurance. But inside, I felt a strange anger. Not at her, but at him. At how easily someone could neglect a woman like her. It wasn't professional. It wasn't right. But that didn't stop it. One evening, she asked if I ever felt lonely. I didn't answer right away. She followed up with, "You just seem like someone who understands things others don't." It was subtle, but it hit deep. I told her sometimes. She replied, "Me too. All the time." That was the start of something we never named, but both felt. During her next visit, the air was different. She didn't look away when our eyes met. She talked less about her pain and more about her life, her regrets, her dreams. I listened, fully present, more than I should have been. When she left, I caught myself watching her walk away, wishing she didn't have to. Later that week, she messaged late at night. "Can I ask you something personal?" I hesitated, then replied, "Sure." She said, "Do you ever wonder if you're in the wrong life?" I read it 5 times. I didn't know how to answer that without revealing too much. I said, "Sometimes, yeah." She wrote, "I think I made choices for the wrong reasons. And now I feel stuck." I knew what she was really saying, and I should have stopped it right there. I should have reminded her of boundaries, of roles, of consequences. But I didn't. I told myself this was just two people being honest. Just words. But words became a thread tying us closer. The emotional pull tightened with every exchange. I started noticing how often I thought of her. Her laugh, her voice, the way she looked when she was trying to hide her sadness. It became harder to pretend this was just about care. I started avoiding her appointment notes, afraid of how I'd feel seeing her name. Then one day, she ended a message with, "You make things feel lighter. I don't know what I'd do without you." I stared at those words, feeling both honored and trapped. I had become something more than a healthcare provider to her, and she had become something more than a patient to me. We both knew the line had been crossed, but neither of us was willing to step back. It happened faster than I expected. Anna messaged me late one evening. "He's out of town. I can't sleep. Can we talk?" I told myself not to answer, but my fingers moved anyway. "Sure," she called. Her voice was quiet, strained. "Can I come by? I don't want to be alone tonight." Every part of me knew what that meant. Every part of me also knew I wouldn't say no. When she arrived, she looked different. Not made up or dressed for anything. Just real. Tired. Honest. We talked, at first, about her husband, about how distant he'd become, about how tired she was of pretending to be okay. Her eyes were full of sadness, not seduction. She didn't come looking for romance. She came looking for connection. And I gave it to her. One minute we were talking. The next, we were silent, the kind of silence that asks questions without needing words. Her hand found mine. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't dramatic. It was slow, natural, familiar. She leaned in. I didn't stop her. I didn't want to. When her lips touched mine, it wasn't heat I felt. It was something else, relief. Like a weight had been lifted. Like we were finally acknowledging what we'd both been denying. We didn't say anything after. We just sat there, breathing in the consequences. I could feel my heart pounding, not out of excitement, but from the reality of what we'd done. I'd broken the rule I swore I'd never touch. I told myself it was human, that it wasn't about lust. It was about something deeper. But it didn't matter. Wrong is wrong. When she left, she paused at the door. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure if I was sorry too, or if I was just afraid of what came next. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every scene replayed in my mind. Her words, her hands, her silence, the look in her eyes that said, "This meant more than I'll admit." The next morning, I thought about canceling her next appointment, creating space, setting boundaries, but I didn't. Instead, I checked my phone every hour, waiting to hear from her. When her message came, it was simple. Last night meant everything to me. I stared at it, feeling equal parts warmth and dread. I knew this wasn't love, not the kind that builds a life. It was something born out of loneliness, vulnerability, and timing. But that didn't make it any less real, or any less dangerous. I had crossed a line that didn't just affect me, it affected my career, my reputation, her marriage. Everything. And still, part of me wasn't ready to let it go. I didn't hear from Anna for a few days after that. No messages. No missed calls. Just silence. At first, I thought maybe she needed space, that she was processing what happened the same way I was. But as the days turned into a week, the silence started to feel like distance. Intentional distance. Her next appointment came. She didn't show up. No cancellation, no explanation. I waited, told myself maybe she forgot, maybe something came up. But deep down I knew. Something had changed. Or someone found out. That evening, she finally messaged, "I can't do this anymore. He knows something's off. I need to fix my marriage." Just like that. No mention of what we shared. No apology. No anger. Just an ending. I sat with the message, numb. I didn't reply. What could I say? That I understood? That I felt used? That I missed her? The weight of it all hit me slowly. First came the professional guilt. I had crossed a line that could cost me everything. I started reviewing our records, making sure nothing inappropriate was documented. I pulled back from patients, from colleagues. I smiled less. I spoke less. My work felt mechanical, empty. Then came the personal fallout. I realized how much I had invested emotionally in someone who was never mine to begin with. She had a life, a husband, a story that didn't include me beyond that brief chapter. And I had been foolish enough to think otherwise. It wasn't love. It was need. Temporary, intense, and rooted in weakness. Rumors started at the clinic. Whispers. A colleague asked if I was okay. I said I was tired. They didn't press. I avoided eye contact, avoided any mention of her name. But I knew someone knew. Or at least suspected. It was only a matter of time before the wrong question reached the right ears. I still think about that night sometimes. Not in a romantic way. More like an accident you replay, wondering what you could have done differently to avoid the crash. I see now how easy it is to justify the wrong thing when it feels right in the moment. How emotions can blur everything. Duty, ethics, reality. Anna never reached out again. I never tried either. That door closed, and with it, a part of me I didn't know existed. The part that let feelings override judgment. The part that thought caring was enough of a reason to betray trust. I helped my patient. I listened, supported, connected. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being her doctor and started being her escape. And in doing that, I failed both of us. In the end, I learned that crossing lines doesn't always come with dramatic consequences. Sometimes it's quieter than that. A slow unraveling. A hollow silence. A message that never gets sent.